So it's not as risky for them to give you a mortgage if it's backed by the government, which is what CMHC is. So that was 2003. And remember, the whole thinking of buyers during this period, I mean, for anyone that was living here, I wasn't, but for a lot of people, they were like, you know, there was a bit of a fever here developing. That's what one of my teachers described it to me. Is people who had bought during this period, you know, they're like, at that point, real estate was just expensive, but they bought a home. They had all those other benefits of control and do whatever they want, building equity and forced savings and blah blah. But now they're in a point where real estate is climbing a lot. You know, that's all like free money basically. Like they don't have to pay taxes on that or anything like that. So they're obviously feeling pretty good about themselves. Just like anyone who bought during this period, they're feeling pretty awesome. You know, I mean, if you only had 5% of a down payment, and then it shoots up $100,000, I wouldn't complain. So it's like a machine, basically. You know, it's like money is getting surged into real estate through mortgages that people aren't paying off for the next, you know, 25 or 30 years. So it's like people who bought during that period will sell to someone, buy a more expensive home, or buy 2 homes or whatever, and then it'll kind of snowball. You guys see what I mean? Not really describing it too well, I don't think, but whatever. 2006. It's another big year. You know, they've already been all these like serious momentum, serious climb, practically doubling. The government does another big thing. I mean, not only with all that interest and interest rates, tax cuts, they basically give banks the okay to give extended mortgages, which means that you can, instead of paying it over 25 years, you're paying it over 35 years. And that just basically lowers your payments a little bit, but you're paying more over time in interest payments, right? Makes it a little bit more affordable, but over time you're paying more in interest, you know? So immediately, people who were not able to quite get involved, or they were thinking, man, I really should get into this game, you know, real estate's shooting up. Well, now they're put in a moment where it's like, well, wait a second, with 35 years, now I can. And you know, in 2006, with prices already doubling, who cares if in another 10 years, they're gonna buy a home, prices are gonna shoot up some more, flip it, or whatever, and just make cool $150,000 or something like that. And a lot of people did. You know, 35 years, I'll talk about extended amortizations a little bit more later. But yeah, it's that's what they introduced there. 5% down, 35-year mortgages, CMHC insured, so the banks don't take any risk, and this makes it a little bit easier for people to pay. 2007. Maybe some of you guys remember this. I remember it. I thought it was hilarious. The government. Now you remember that guy holding the cat? I shouldn't say that guy. Prime Minister Stephen Harper holding the cat. Well, him and his government introduced something new in 2007. It wasn't new. I mean, other countries have done it. 0 down, 40-year mortgages. This was in 2007, and it basically just makes it even a little bit more extreme, because now you don't need to save for that 5% like you did before. Now you don't need to save anything. You just have to not be in any debt. And as long as you can pay your payments over 40 years, I mean, the bank shouldn't complain because it's CMHC insured. The government shouldn't complain as long as you're paying it off. And yeah, but that's a bit riskier. You know, everybody knows if you have $0 cash in that home when you buy it, and you're going to pay it over 40 years, a lot can change over 40 years. You know, it's a bit risky. Everybody can understand that, but people wouldn't complain if property values are shooting up, because even for them, they're like, well, if I could buy it 40 years at this much, sell it at that much, even though I had no down payment, now I have a huge chunk of equity here. I'm not unhappy. You know, who cares about that down payment? Well, in the summer of 2008, the government made another announcement. They said, no more 40-year 0 downs. Finally, I guess they looked at the numbers and they were like, this isn't a good idea. So they immediately, no, they didn't immediately take it away. They announced that they were going to take it away on October 15th, 2008. And they did, of course. I don't want to go into any of the stuff that happened after then, but at least not right now. I want to move up to the next chart. Okay, so here's a graph of the, wait, where is he? I can't remember. You recognize this graph? A little bit different. Sorry. It says basically units under construction, properties that are being built in Vancouver. Now remember 80-81 when interest rates were super high? You know, you saw it climb up and then shoot down. Well, the same thing happened with units under construction. These are basically a number of places that are being built for people. And right over here, before 2001, when income tax went down, interest rates went down, you see that the amount of properties being built when prices were lower is also very low, right? Which makes sense, right? And then as prices climbed, well, so did units under construction. So did the amount of properties being built. And one of the interesting things about such a steep climb in the number of properties being built in Vancouver is just imagine for a second you're a construction worker. During the whole, you know, before interest rate drop, before income tax, they obviously they got paid what they got paid. Demand wasn't super high. People weren't building very much. But the moment people start building, and there's a limited number of skilled workers, they can start asking for more money. You know? The people who, the companies that produce the goods or whatever, the stuff needed to build condos and houses, can ask for more money. You know, because now there's a huge demand, and they can use this as a reason to charge more. They can say, well, geez, labor is so much more expensive now. Materials so much more expensive. Property is more expensive. You know, I gotta charge you this, otherwise I'm not making anything. So that gave them an okay to charge more. They're increasing the value of homes even more because this is yeah. All right, this is important. This is probably, well, yeah, this is very important. This is all about extended mortgages. Now this part right here I took from a mortgage broker website, and then this part I just added in from like a Royal Bank calculator. Now, you see, there is the 40-year mortgage there, which is no longer available. But what's interesting to note is that if you look at the principal, which is the amount that you're actually building in equity, you know, you're actually owning that bit of the house, otherwise it's just the mortgage, you're only building 112 bucks out of a almost 1,500 mortgage. So that's pretty low for the first few years. That's because it's extended over 40, you know. You have nothing in there, and you're paying off almost all interest. Okay. And one thing that's always funny to note is that if you go to almost any realtor site, mortgage broker site, whatever, they will give you something here like these calculations are based on a mortgage of $250 at 6.5%. You see, almost everywhere. Some places they'll have it at 8. Some places they'll have it. I don't know if they'll have it higher. I saw 8 and I posted it, and it was, yeah. But what you can get now is a lot less. These are pretty much, well, these aren't the lowest that someone can get in terms of interest rates, but they're, like, people can get this. Like, I've heard of some people getting it as low as 1.5%. One thing that's kind of interesting that I think you guys should know, or I wanted to at least cover, is the whole 25 at a more traditional rate. 6.5% is more, like, historically, it's not unreasonable for mortgage rates to climb that high. And the monthly have a 2.25% interest rate over 35 years. So old, new, it's almost twice, sorry, it's half as much that someone would be paying today compared to before. Now, there's something really wrong with this. There's something really wrong here. Can anyone spot it really quickly?